You are live.
All right. We'll do a school bell today. School is in session. Welcome everyone to the April 23rd meeting of the Rotary Club of Beaver Creek. Happy Friday. I'm your host and president, Mike Canada. I'm glad all of you could be here today. Quite the conversationalist in the beginning. I wish we could continue that, but in respect of everybody's time, we got to start the meeting. So I'd like to thank our greeters. I'd like to thank Mike Zwick. Saw him on there for our great speakers and programs, Jim Gundel and Alex Zaharia for website and YouTube, and Beth Cusack for our book dedication. I'd like to welcome all of our members who joined us today, any guests that may be joining. And if you are a guest, I'd like to pause here so maybe you could introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Sophia. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep, Sophia, welcome.
Awesome. I'm Sophia. I live in Beaver Creek. I'm a local realtor with Glass House Realty Group. I know Stephen Brown. He invited me as a prospect because I've been talking a lot about Rotary with him. So I'm excited to meet everyone.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Sophia. Any other guests? All right. And as always, a special welcome to our speaker, Bethany. Is it Deines? Did I pronounce that right?
Not quite. Deines. Two-syllable.
I would have never got that. So thank you for the correction there. From Dayton Shriners. Thank you so much for making time for our club, Bethany.
Sure.
So far, we've been averaging 37 on Zoom and 12 on YouTube. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Sergeant at Arms, the Reverend Dave Fleming.
All right, Mr. President and club members, a little news, always a lot of news, but a little bit to report. The U.S. passes the 200 million persons vaccinated mark. Arizona Navajo Nation with 300,000 persons, which was also hit very hard early by the virus, is now on target to be the first community to develop herd immunity, proving once again that the noble savage knows best or knows better. Meanwhile, India reports the world's biggest single-day increase in infections, and the United States State Department issues travel warnings to a plethora, that's Eric's favorite word, to a plethora of countries. Derek Chauvin convicted on all 3 counts with which he was charged, now awaits sentencing in a jail cell. Freeze warnings expected tonight. Cincinnati Reds are already frozen out for their 4th straight game. SpaceX rockets launched from Florida with 4 astronauts. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri is the only senator to vote against the anti-Asian hate crimes bill, claiming it could lead to massive government overreach. And speaking of massive government, Queen Elizabeth is estimated to have a net worth of $550 million, exceeded in Great Britain only by that of Victoria and David Beckham, a Spice Girl and a football star. Arnold Schwarzenegger, former actor and governor of California, was named in a poll of British adults as the most suitable public figure to lead humanity in the event of an alien invasion. "I'm ready to serve," tweeted the 73-year-old acting star. Lawyer Sidney Powell argued that Dominion Voting Systems' $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against her should be dismissed because, quote, "no reasonable person could believe the claims about rigged voting were statements of fact." She made those claims, and Dominion is taking some exception to that. Baseball legend and right-wing tweeter troll Curt Schilling announced he's moving his family from Boston to Tennessee. He's been tweeting disparaging views of Muslims, journalists, and transgendered people, and life in the blue state, Massachusetts, quote, "hasn't been a real pleasant experience for him," he says. President Biden slipped not once, this is kind of old news, 3 times while ascending the steps Air Force One. Greg Kelly, an anchor for Newsmax, called Biden's stumbles very sad and declared that resignation should be considered. I think what Biden is resigned to is having his Secret Service agents help him up the steps of Air Force One. It was a bad week for going maskless, with news that the dining room and beach club have been shut down at former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort following a COVID-19 outbreak among the staff. And it was also a bad week for teeth after the American Dental Association reported that the pandemic has led to a 70% increase in problems caused by frequent teeth grinding and jaw clenching. Quote, the number of chipped and cracked teeth really started to pick up as people's stress level picked up, said dentist Paul Levine of Milwaukee. And a man, I couldn't identify where this happened, but a man has taught his cat how to play ping pong. In a video that's gone viral, the pet's owner hits the ball across the net to his cat Quincy, who holds court on the other side using his paw as a paddle and returns service. And finally, a Georgia man says his ex-boss paid him his final paycheck by dumping 500 pounds of oil-covered pennies in his driveway in the middle of the night. Andreas Flatten claims that when he quit Walker Luxury Auto Works because it was a toxic workplace, owner Miller Walker was furious and got revenge with the punny stunt. Let's see what else we have around the world. Well, we have host attendee. Well, why can't I find? Daggone it. Okay, here it is. Glorious Spring. No, that's not it. I'm having trouble trying to keep this stuff on my computer. I'm at that age where my mind still thinks I'm 29. My humor suggests I'm 12, while my body mostly keeps asking if I'm sure I'm not dead yet. I see people around my age mountain climbing and kayaking. I feel good getting my leg through my underwear without losing my balance. At my funeral, take the bouquet off my coffin and throw it into the crowd to see who's next of my age group. Let's see. You know it's a cold day when you're old if your teeth start chattering and they're still on the nightstand. You know you're getting old when a recliner and a heating pad is your idea of a hot date. I find these days that most of my conversations start out with, did I tell you this already, or what was I going to say? And I think tossing and turning at night should be counted as exercise. Let's see what else we've got. A couple other things. Glorious Spring, funny humor. John Travolta tested negative for coronavirus. It turns out it was just Saturday night fever. The World Health Organization has announced that dogs cannot contract COVID-19. Dogs previously held in quarantine can now be released. To be clear, who let the dogs out? Who? World Health Organization let them. I saw an ad for burial plots and I thought to myself, that's the last thing I need. Intelligence is like underwear. It's important that you have it, but not necessary that you show it off. Relationships are a lot like algebra. Have you ever looked at your ex and wondered why? A courtroom artist was arrested today for an unknown reason. The details are sketchy. People are making end of the world jokes like there's no tomorrow. My doctor told me I needed to break a sweat once a day, so I told him I'd start lying to my wife. Whatever you do, always give 100%.
Is he froze?
He's frozen. I think we lost him.
Wow, what a blessing from heaven. Gosh, that was unexpected. Well, I guess I guess we'll move on, and if he joins in the next minute or so, we'll let him finish. We don't want him to miss show and tell, so we'll give him a second here. So let's move on to Happy Bucks.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in with a happy buck. On Tuesday, in addition to donating 4 vials of blood to the vampire at Sterling Research Labs, I got my 3rd COVID shot. I'm in the phase 3 trial, so now I consider myself 3/4 vaccinated since I'm in a double-blind crossover study. And they told me they'd let me know whether I got vaccinated in December or vaccinated in April, sometime in 2023.
Wow. Okay.
I have 2 happy bucks. The first one would be my oldest son, Kenan Tucker, was inducted into the National Honor Society. Unfortunately, he couldn't go to the actual initiation, but a volleyball game, but we got the certificate, so that's all that matters, I guess. And then my second happy buck would be for my younger son, Palmer. He received an awesome little plaque last night at the swim banquet for most improved swimmer. And then he also got a varsity letter in swim. So they're both doing well.
Congratulations. Any other happy bucks?
I have a happy buck. I'm sure our sergeant was going to wish a fellow Rotarian a happy birthday. Today is Dave Cusack's birthday, and I want to wish my dear husband a very happy birthday, and here's to another amazing year.
I never thought I'd make it to the 30s like I have, so.
We're not a singing club, but should we sing Dave a happy birthday?
No.
Nope. Thank you, dear. Good present.
No, she's got to live with him, so I guess I'll take that. Any other happy bucks?
I got 2. One, I want to happy buck to Sophia for joining. She's an awesome realtor, so if anybody needs real estate. And 2, if you weren't on the conversation prior to the meeting, I potentially had a blown engine. Luckily, last night I diagnosed it, and if you're curious, this is what a blown lifter looks like. So super excited that I don't have a blown engine. So I'll give $20 for that. Not that we're going to collect anyway, but.
I'm happy Dave was able to join us again. He was going to wish Mr. Cusack a happy birthday, right, Dave Fleming?
I am. I missed about 3 minutes in there. It may not have been very important, but I did miss a little piece of.
The cheering was deafening.
Are there any other happy bucks before we move on to show and tell?
Yeah, I'd like to put in a couple of happy bucks since yesterday was Fran and my 54th wedding anniversary. There she is, popped in.
And I'll put some happy bucks in too.
Congratulations, Ed and Fran. Any others?
Well, I think we need one because Dr. Stewart just popped up. Happy buck to see Dr. Stewart. How are you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can hardly see him. Maybe I need glasses or something. I can't see him.
You're muted, Doc Stewart.
There we go. Hi, everyone. Happy birthday, Dave.
What a great present for Dave to have Doc Stewart join us on Rotary. So that's great.
Not buying that 30 stuff, though. That's
good to have you, Doc. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, glad to join you, Mike.
All right, let's move on to has become one of the favorite segments, at least for me, and that is show and tell. This week, we have Mr. Mike Zwick, and after his presentation, he gets to nominate somebody for next week. So, Mike, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
That's loud and clear.
All right. It's a little unusual for me to be speaking. I usually find speakers. So I'm on the wrong side of the camera. And when I talked to people early on when we were doing Zoom meetings, they said how uncomfortable they were. And I went, I don't get that. Well, now I get that. I joined Rotary on Founders Day in 1984, which makes me one of the oldest members. Let that sink in. About 3 years in, the club came to me and Eric Cluxton and asked us to co-chair programs. And we did that for a year. And then I did programs off and on a few times after that until the current time. But my good news is, my happy buck is, Pete Bales and Mark Weinstein are taking the reins for programs come July 1st. I will remain in the background, but it's time for those young guys to pick it up and make us look better.
Mike, how many years did you do programs?
I was trying to figure that out. I think 20 in a row here.
Okay.
Perhaps. I also chaired or co-chaired the golf outing for over 20 years. Ed O'Shaughnessy and I did it for quite a while. And then Ed assisted when Mick moved in, and Mick and I have done it for a while. And it's going to be a big event. It's July 16th. It's our biggest fundraiser, and we need everybody's help. We successfully pulled it off last year. We only made about a third of what we usually make, but we still hung in there and did it. It's going to be on July 16th, Beaver Creek Golf Course. Lunch is at 11:30. We need everybody's help. We need golfers. We need your friends and neighbors who golf if you don't. We need hole sponsors and other sponsors. Mike sent out the flyer by DBAC mail, so you all ought to have it. So just take a look at that and see how you can help, and let Mick or I know how you can help. Way back in 1968, I went off to Bowling Green State University, where I accidentally enrolled in Air Force ROTC. In the fall of '69, I met my wife, Anita, and we've been together ever since. I got commissioned, but I stayed on to get a master's degree. And all of a sudden, it is April of 1974, and the Air Force sends me this nice letter saying, it's been fun having you as a pilot candidate, but we're sending everybody home and we don't need pilots. So I became an education officer and served on staff at Air University at Maxwell. And in 1978, we got orders that we were coming to Wright-Patterson. So in 78, we moved to Beaver Creek, and I showed up at AFIT, where I spent the next 5 years. Little known fact, one of my titles there was Assistant Professor of Management. Did that, left active duty in '83 and started my business career. But then by, let's see, '86, I joined the reserve, and I retired with 25 years total. And I really enjoyed it. I was, during my reserve duty, I was the backup to the public affairs commanders, which means if the balloon went up and he got activated, I got to sit in his chair and run things back home. So I always thought that was a good deal. And I was involved with some pretty neat projects. I got to carry what they call the crash bag at the Dayton airport for 10 years and luckily never needed it. I was on the forming committee of the Air Force Marathon, Brandon, and I also participated in the Dayton Peace Accord. So there were some very interesting things along the way. Business-wise, I came out of the Air Force. I did business brokerage for 3 years. I moved from there into commercial banking, where I met my friend and roommate for a long time, Bill Sparks. And well, I opened Beaver Creek Financial in '98 and retired it a couple of years ago. So it was a good run, good time through the community. When I first left active duty, one of the first people I met and talked to was Leonard Hollahan. And Len was the chamber director at the time. And I went in and sat down with him, and he patted me on the head and said, "There's two things you got to do. First of all, you got to write a check to join the chamber," which I did. And he said, "The second thing you need to do is you got to call Wayne Spray. He's the president of Rotary this year, and you need to get involved." And that's how that came about. So over the years, I've enjoyed serving the community. I've enjoyed being part of Rotary and Chamber. And Len always said, you know, you get out of it what you put into it. So I would encourage all you newer, younger, more energetic folks to get involved. Enjoy it while you can. Oh, and I am happy to nominate Mr. Brian Lampton to present next week. Smile, Brian. And I thank you.
Sorry. Thank you for that. And we'll look forward to.
Thanks, Mike.
Brian's going to be busy next week. We probably have an induction next week as well. So, but thanks, Mike Zwick. We always appreciate what you do for the club, and it's good to hear some of your background. So, all right, with that, we will move on to announcements. There's a board meeting following our meeting today. If you would like to attend, everyone's welcome. Just stay on the Zoom call after the meeting's over. The Ohio Rotary District Conference starts this evening. I believe there's still time to register if you'd like to attend. The cost is free, $99. Again, that's free, $99. Festivities begin at 6:30, supposed to wrap up by 8:30. And then tomorrow morning, it goes from 9 until noon. We have more details on Founders Day. I'm excited about this. I sent out a registration link just before our meeting today. As you know, it's going to be May 7th. We will be celebrating the meeting at Country Club of the North in person for those who feel comfortable. This will take the place of our regular meeting that Friday. So there'll be dinner, awards, there'll be entertainment, there'll be socializing, there'll be a cash bar. Social hour starts at 5:30. Dinner starts at 6:30, and the program immediately follows that. Please register via the link I sent out. It is unique to you, so don't forward it along to anyone. There will also be a invitation that comes in the mail as well. So if you don't feel comfortable, the event will be streamed. So this will be the first time we've met in person in over a year, and I'm really looking forward to that. We're working hard to make it nice and special. So, as Mike mentioned, golf outing July 16th. Beaver Creek Golf Club, get your foursomes together. And then lastly, if you are a guest, so Sophia, if you wouldn't mind putting your contact information into the chat line, so that I can be sure and add you to our email list. That would be great. Are there any other announcements? All right, with that.
Mike, Denny Jarvie here.
Oh, Denny, go ahead, Denny.
We had our 4-way test, and I'm wondering how we go through the process of getting the checks to the winners. And Alex made the suggestion that perhaps we could invite the winners, the 3 of them, and their families to our Founders Day dinner, and maybe even hear a speech of the winner there. Just a thought.
Thank you, Denny. Any other announcements? All right. It is my pleasure to turn it over to Ms. Carrie Tucker.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Great. Thanks, Mike. So I am going to be introducing Bethany Deines. She's the Director of Development at Shriners Children's Ohio. She is responsible for strategic initiatives and raising $10 million annually for the hospital. Previously, she's worked as the Vice President of Development for the Dayton Society of Natural History, the Director of Annual Giving at Dayton Children's, and the Director of Development for the Phi Chi Kappa Tau Foundation. She has over 25 years of professional and development experience and focuses on providing a donor-centric experience, which I can say, working with her, she is by far the best person that I've ever known to do that. She is 110% all about the donor. And anyway, I'm very lucky to be working under her. She's also active with the Association of Fundraising Professionals, which is a professional organization that we both belong to, and serves as the trustee for the Tri Sigma Foundation. Anyway, I will turn it over to Bethany. Oh, hey, Mike, I'm going to be sharing my screen.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carrie, for the nice introduction. I think I'm the one that considers myself pretty fortunate to be able to have you on my team. We are a pretty formidable duo because it's just the two of us and we got to raise $10 million a year. But we're grateful. I love being able to speak with Rotary members. I was a longtime Rotarian when I lived in different areas. I was in Rotary for about 15 years. And so hopefully one of these days I'll maybe get to be able to rejoin now that we're back in Dayton. So what I'm going to share with you a little bit is about our hospital and particularly our new presence in Dayton. So many of you probably know that Shriners Hospitals for Children, it provides specialized care for children. And so we are not a traditional pediatric hospital like Dayton Children's or Cincinnati Children's, but we provide specialized care. And our goal is really to be able to transform kids' lives so they can have a normal childhood and grow up to live really productive lives. And we want to do that in as warm and caring, a patient and family-centered environment as possible. So our hospital, there's actually 22 hospitals in the Shriners Hospitals for Children system. There's 4 that specialize in burns. And so we are one of the 4 burn centers in the Shrine system. The other hospitals do what you see a lot on the ads for. They do the orthopedic care. So kids who have cerebral palsy or brittle bone disease, those kids are going to be treated at an orthopedic center, kids with amputations and so forth. Our hospital, like Boston, Galveston, and Northern California, though, is one of the burn centers. So we existed for 50 years in Cincinnati and really was the pioneer behind pediatric burn care. So that's really what our bread and butter is caring for kids that have had acute burns. What's interesting about kids with burns, though, and Carrie, if you want, we'll flip through those slides. Burn surgeons are plastic surgeons. And so as we work with kids with burns, we've also specialized in other plastic surgeries. So we are renowned for cleft lip and cleft palate surgeries, any kind of craniofacial conditions. So everything from their ears are too big to really serious, tumors on their head and face. We can do all of that. We do plastic surgery for kids who've had different kinds of traumas, bites, road rash, lawnmower accidents. We can do all of their reconstructive surgery, as well as the reconstructive surgery for kids who have burns. So when kids have burns, their skin contracts up. And so a lot of times you'll see burn patients where they, like this little girl, her feet have curled up, and our surgeons can release them so that their toes, their hands, their arms can have a more normal range of motion. And that's also a big part of why we provide extensive physical and occupational therapy at our hospital. So we're unique in that we are a destination hospital. We serve kids from 26 regions, 26 states in the country. So that's a good map of it. Really, the whole eastern half of the country, with the exception of the rural Northeast. Boston kind of takes care of those kids, but we have the widest territory of any Shrine hospital. We also treat kids, have had patients from more than 35 countries around the world. We particularly have Shriners in Central America that will bring their kids up, or our surgeons and teams will go there to do outreach clinics. I'm just going to leave this slide and we'll provide that to you, but anybody can call Shriners. It's not something that you need a referral from a physician or even know anybody from Shriners. We want to be able to see any kids, and especially for kids with burns, because time is of the essence of when those kids can be treated. So we've got, an emergency line number that's available 24/7. Our charge nurses respond and they can get kids in really, really quickly. So there's emergency referral numbers. And then we also, for the non-emergencies, we have a different referral number. So we can provide that to you. But if you know any families that would have a need for this, please feel free to share this information with them. We want to help as many kids as we possibly can. So a lot of the times people have asked us, after 50 years, why did we relocate to Dayton? Part of it is financial, and part of it is really to expand care. So what's interesting is Cincinnati was a 300,000 square foot facility, 30 beds, and kids no longer need really extensive stays when they've had burns. So there's more safety standards. So imagine your house has fire extinguishers, or cars have airbags, and kids' toys and clothes are fire retardant. There's better safety standards for kids, and so we don't see the number of burns, but also healthcare trends and the technology has gotten so incredibly sophisticated. We can do a lot with laser surgery and with skin grafts, and there's just not the need to keep kids as inpatients for months and months and months. And obviously, that's a good sign, right? Kids have better outcomes when they can be at home. We want them to stay at home, be with their friends and family. So we don't need as many inpatient beds, and moving to a smaller facility economically just made a lot of sense. Also, by partnering, and this is a new model in the Shrine world, we're partnering with Dayton Children's, and so we can share expenses and staff and services for lab, radiology, the pharmacy, our environmental services people. We don't need our own security team. We're saving between $12 and $15 million a year by relocating to Dayton. We also are really excited because Dayton Children's has some world-class surgeons, as we have world-class surgeons, but there's ways that they can collaborate. I'll give you a couple of examples for that. The first is that we had a little girl who had such a severe cleft lip and cleft palate. Her whole face was open. And we collaborated with the neurosurgeons at Dayton Children's her neurosurgeons enclosed her brain because her brain was exposed. And then our plastic surgeons were really the ones that were able to construct this child a face. We're also collaborating with them on a really pioneering and very technical surgery where we have some twins from Central America that are conjoined at the head. And so we're working with their neurosurgeons to be able to separate those babies and do the surgery that they will need to live normal lives. So we have that opportunity to collaborate on super complex medical conditions, and we wouldn't have had that by just being on our own. We continue to do telemedicine and outreach. That's a bigger part of our business thanks to COVID. We certainly expanded our telemedicine visits. And then importantly, we wanted to maintain a burn center in the Midwest. We didn't want kids from the Midwest region who have catastrophic injuries to have to fly to Northern California or to Texas or to Boston for treatment. We want to keep them as close to home as we possibly can. And Dayton is a little more centrally located even than Cincinnati, gives us access to I-70 and I-75. Nearby airports, not just the Dayton airport, the Cincinnati airport, Columbus, Indianapolis, gives us a lot more access to get kids here. And that's important to us. So Dayton was just a really, really great choice. And our friends at Dayton Children's have rolled out the red carpet, as has everybody in this community, to have Shriners relocate to Dayton. So at this point, I'm going to share with you a little bit so you can see what our hospital looks like, because with COVID, we've not been able to bring people in for tours. So this is the best we can do. So like I said, we're new. We're a hospital within a hospital. So we've taken over the second floor of Dayton Children's. I'm sure many of you have been to Dayton Children's. We've renovated a unit that used to be their critical care unit behind the surgical suites. So we are on the second floor on the west side of their hospital. But one of the nice things we really like about Dayton Children's, that Shriners and Dayton Children's really share this mission to put kids first and always, all the time, that the whole hospital is designed with kids in mind. So when you come in to our center, you're going to come off the elevators onto that second floor, and you're immediately going to see at the end of the hall the entrance to our unit. So this is called the editorial with words. If any of you are familiar with Shriners, there is a great story that no man ever stood so tall as when he stooped to help a child. And that is foremost in the minds of our Shriners and the donors who support us. You come in through our registration area. So everybody has a central registration area. And then you'll go down the hall to the first thing you'll run into is our physical and occupational therapy unit. So this is a major part of what we do. All of our kids generally are going to need reconstructive occupational or speech therapy. So imagine if you have a cleft lip and cleft palate, as those children age, they need speech therapy. Kids who've been burned, I mean, it's pretty incredible what they can do to get these kids to be self-sufficient. We had a young man who came into our care who had one of his arms amputated, both his legs amputated after a really horrific accident. He had been in another hospital for 6 months and had been sent home on hospice care. They said there was nothing more that they could do. And our Shriners in Nashville heard about this story and said, we think there's a place that can help him. And so they brought him up here. And what's really amazing is that our surgeons were able to release the scarring that had contracted his body and his arms and his hip. And our physical therapists, who lovingly say they practice tough love, got this kid up and functional within 2 weeks. Pretty amazing. He had been left to die, and then within 2 weeks, he was able to brush his own teeth. I mean, they push these kids hard, and this unit is active and busy, and a lot of magic happens in this space. As you walk down our hall, you'll see to the left is our waiting room. On the right is our donor recognition area. We're grateful that we have incredible support from everybody in our communities. And we want to recognize those donors. Our outpatient waiting room. So more and more of our patients, we treat about 3,000 kids per year. Predominantly, those are done on an outpatient basis. So we have an outpatient clinic that's very busy, and we see a lot of kids there for a lot of different reasons. So there's a central nurses station, and then there's 4 exam rooms in there. And we always joke with that black space behind that wall is a chalkboard. Kids love video games, but they have just as much fun with chalk, and let them go to town on a chalkboard. So that's just a little way that we can keep kids distracted while they're in for care. Our inpatient nursing unit. So we have both the outpatient and the inpatient side. So this enters into our nurses station. There's a main charting station and the big nurses station. So this is really the hub of our inpatient unit. It's right in the center of the unit. It gives easy access to families, that there's always available someone to talk to 24/7. We have a pharmacy that is right on the unit. We have our own pharmacy. We also collaborate with the Dayton Children's Pharmacy. If there's something that we don't have, we can get it from them. Also, one of the nice things about Dayton Children's is they have an outpatient pharmacy, a retail store right in the hospital. And so families don't even have to, they can get everything they need right before they ever leave the hospital. They don't have to stop. If any of you have ever had a sick or injured child, the last thing you want to do is get them home and then have to take time to go back to the drugstore to get the medicines they need. So we can take care of all of this right at the hospital for families. Our inpatient rooms are very, very large, super high tech, access to beautiful windows. So they have a great view of the city every day. We have a playroom. So we always say the only job kids have is to play. And so we want to make sure that play is always a big part of what they do. It makes an incredible way for them to heal. We have med stations throughout the hospital units. So they're never very far. Our kids, particularly in our inpatient unit, this is a critical care unit, an ICU. And so they have one-on-one care with nurses, and everything is in pretty close proximity because our nurses want to be able to access what they need as quickly as possible. This is our same day surgery area. So we do both long-term care and then same day surgery. A lot of kids come back for skin grafts, or they may be in the hospital for just a couple of days, so they can stay there. And there are 5 rooms on this unit in this section. And we're pretty excited. These are the new, that picture that was taken the first day, our surgical team got their new scrubs. And so they were pretty excited that they had custom scrubs. This is one of our same day surgery rooms. It's a little bit smaller, but equally as high tech and kid friendly as our inpatient rooms. We have nutrition stations throughout the unit, and this gives families the way to get coffee, juice boxes, snacks, drinks, ice chips, whatever they need. Just a little way to be able to provide some creature comforts when you're in the hospital. And this is obviously the most important unit of space on our unit. It's our surgical suite. This is unbelievable state-of-the-art care here. And what's interesting is when we agreed to move to Dayton Children's built this suite for us. And this was sort of their gift to our hospital. It's at least a $3 million facility right in this room alone. And that was a gift to us from Dayton Children's, and they covered all the expenses for that. So it was unbelievable. We talked to our chief of staff. We said, what do you think about the surgical suite? And she's like, OMG, it is amazing and better than anything we've ever had. And then we have a PACU recovery unit for kids. It's got 2 beds there. Like I said, we don't have hundreds of kids in at one time, so we really just need a couple of spaces for those kids. We have 7 beds on the inpatient unit, which is plenty. One of the things that's different about our move to Dayton from what we had in Cincinnati is in Cincinnati, we had family care units, so families could stay right in the hospital with their kids. We have beds and bump out rooms in all the rooms for families to stay there, especially if their kids are in critical condition. But we also then know that they need a little more space in that. So we collaborate with the Ronald McDonald House across the street from Dayton Children's. There is a Ronald McDonald House hospitality room right in the hospital that has sleeping pods and washers and dryers and showers and anything you can imagine to eat. That's all right there and accessible for our families. There's also several hotels in the area that we collaborate with. And then we are very blessed to have this partnership with Wright-Patterson and access to any military families who have care, need our care, that they can stay at Fisher houses. There's 2 on the base and there's 1 over at the VA center, VA hospital. So we always say there's a lot of different ways that people in our community can help us. First and foremost, if you know somebody who could use our care, please provide those referral numbers, help us grow, let them know that we are here and we can help their kids. Share our mission, our patient stories. We publish a lot of our patient stories on YouTube or on Facebook and Instagram. We have some amazing things. Please share that. Please clarify any information as to why we moved to Dayton or that we didn't close. We did move, but we have never closed our hospital. We've just simply relocated it. We hope that you'll consider supporting us generously. We have a lot of different things that we'll be doing, a lot of events, hopefully post-COVID, that will open up to the community. We do have some naming opportunities in the hospital. So if your organization or individuals that might be interested in having a space, a room, or a unit named for them, we can certainly work to make that possible. And yet again, after COVID, we will have plenty of opportunities for volunteer time and talent, or a lot of people will drop off in-kind donations for us, and do a drive outside the hospital, and we'll work with anybody who's interested in doing that. So there's lots of ways that you can get involved and help us. We certainly are excited to be in Dayton and grateful for the incredible interest and support that we are getting from this community. Like Carrie mentioned in our introduction, I worked at Dayton Children's for about 10 years before I came to work with Shiners. And I know firsthand just how generous and committed this community is to making sure that kids have the best health care. And I think we're pretty blessed now. There's 2 world-class pediatric hospitals in Dayton that can help kids and bring kids in from all over the country to be treated here. So with that, I will open it up to any questions. Carrie, you might want to jump in on any questions too that people will have, but that was the key information that I wanted to share with you. And like I said, happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Thanks, Bethany. You may have covered this, but you're moving from Cincinnati completely to Dayton, so there won't be a Shriners facility down in Cincinnati?
Correct. Yeah, we closed that facility.
Okay. And
it will be sold at some point.
Okay. And then when do you foresee kind of a need for expansion beyond what you already have, or is that even in the near future?
I don't think we're going to need a lot of expansion, really, because what Shriners is looking at is a different sort of model. As opposed to bringing kids to the hospitals, how can we send teams out into different communities? And so there may be some opportunities that we can send our surgeons and our nursing teams out to different areas where they can provide care, bringing it to them as opposed to always having them come here. So we think that the hospital that we have now, the space we have in Dayton Children's is at the right size for our long-term future. Obviously, we will continue to reevaluate that. We know that Dayton Children's is building a new outpatient building, ambulatory services building, and if we need to, we can talk to them about renting spaces there. But I think right now, we believe that with the patient volume that we have, the space that we have is probably good for the long-term future.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions for Bethany or Carrie?
Never heard Rotarians not have questions. So if you don't have questions, Carrie can get the slides to you if you'd like those. And we certainly hope that you will follow our journey here in Dayton and follow what we do on Facebook and be involved in any way that you possibly can. So thank you for the opportunity today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you again, Bethany, for your time. And we have a tradition in our club that we dedicate a book in your honor to our Beaver Creek Library. So I'll turn it over to Beth to do that.
All right, great. Thank you.
Hi, Bethany. Thank you so much for joining us today. The book we will be donating in your honor is called Wizard for Hire, which is actually book 1 of a series. And this one is about a 14-year-old boy named Ozzy, whose scientist parents have been kidnapped after they discovered a formula that enables mind control. So their work is so top secret that he's afraid to go to the police, and he fears he won't be able to find his parents without help. So he comes across an ad that said Wizard for Hire. And this is a coming of age tale filled with magic, mystery, and humor.
Oh, great. I'm sure kids will love that. That's awesome.
Thank you, Beth. Next week, we will have the notorious Mark Caleb Smith from Cedarville University, usually a popular guest we have. He'll be discussing Biden's first 100 days in office, and he will be introduced by Mark Weinstein. As a reminder, please keep an eye on upcoming programs, beavercreekrotary.com and Facebook. Is there anything else for the good of the club? All right, have a great weekend. We'll see you back here next week. And if you want to attend the board meeting, just hang on right where you are.